Hi crafty friends, Melissa Minor here, and today I'm going to be working with this cut file from Pear Tree Cut Files. Now this cut file is only available as being a member of the Pearscription and is not available for purchase. So if you like this cut file, head on over to their website and sign up for their Pearscriptions. They do have a digital option and a pre-cut option. I'm using the digital option today. All right, let's get started with the layout. Now I went ahead and made my own stencil on the Cricut, and I typed in abstract circle, and I just repeated that on my background several times and then cut that out on some white cardstock. Now I'm using a Sharpie marker and I'm just tracing this abstract circle. Now what I want to do is I want to create a mixed media background for my photos. The photos I'm going to be using today are from the solar eclipse that happened earlier in April, and me and my daughter and my boyfriend, we were all in different places on that day. So I have 3 different photos that I want to use of us looking up at the actual solar eclipse. Now I don't know if any of you got to watch that, but it was really neat. So we had the glasses, a lot of places gave out those eclipse glasses for you to look up at the sun. And it was really neat how I guess it was the sun and the moon passing over each other. And so at some points, it was total darkness. So the mixed media background that I want to create today, I want to kind of create that. I want to have some of the sun and then some of the dark parts, like of the moon, coming over the sun. But I didn't want it to be all matchy-matchy. I wanted it to be a little abstract and different. So I'm bringing in my Shimmers paints, and this is called Mustard Seed. It's a Vibes. Now with a Vibes, that is a shimmer spray, so I like that this is going to have some shimmer on my background. The cardstock I'm using is a watercolor cardstock, so it does hold the mixed media, and you'll notice I put down some water first, and then now I'm adding some of the color. So I'm trying to stay in the lines somewhat, but I want each of these circles to be just a little bit different. So I want to add some yellow, and then I want to add some black. And so I'll do some of these on camera, and then I'll take it off camera and do some others. So I'm going to continue painting here. Now, while I'm painting, I did want to mention that if you ever place an order with Shimmers Paints, if you add my name, Melissa Minor, to the comments section, Shimmers will send you a free jar of paint. So that is always fun to add some new colors to your stash that way. All right, so you'll notice here, I'm kind of going in and just making each of them a little different. And then I'm taking a paper towel and then just picking up any of the extra that I get outside of the lines. So I've sped this up a little bit, but I wanted to keep it more closer to real time so that you got an idea of how long this takes. It really doesn't take that long to paint these. And so I'm going to continue going in and painting a little bit on each one. So can you remember where you were during the solar eclipse? Did you take photos? I'm curious to know, so you'll have to leave me a comment down below. Did you take photos? And if so, have you scrapbooked them? While cruising through Pinterest, like all of us do, I'm sure, for looking for layouts, I really couldn't find anything that gave me any inspiration for making my layout today. So this was all my own idea. And I'm really liking the way that this is turning out. Now, in the end, a lot of this background is going to be covered up, which I kind of wanted more of this background to be showing, but I think it does add a lot to the layout. So I spent quite a bit of time painting here, and really there's not that many of these that are actually going to be showing on the final layout. So I'm almost done painting here, and then with the yellow, and then I'm going to move in with the black, but I wanted you to see how each of these were a little bit different. And so let's see here, I got 2 left, and there's no rhyme or reason on how I'm painting these, just making them a little bit different. So I'll finish this one up and then we'll get that last one. And then I'm going to bring in some black paint. So there we go. That looks pretty good. All right, the next color I'm bringing in, now this is a Shimmers and this is in the color Coal. Now a Shimmers, it is already a liquid. It's a water-based paint and it has shimmer. So both of the colors I'm using today have shimmer. So that's really adding a lot to my background. So this first one I get pretty dark, and so I'm bringing in just a little bit of water. Now you got to remember when you use these Shimmers paints, they do dry back lighter than they appear at first. So I am going to add some black to each of these circles, and then I'll dip my paintbrush back into the water to kind of blend it a little better. And then I'll even go back on that first one and add a little bit more water to just blend that out. So doesn't that kind of remind you of when the sun and the moon kind of passed each other on that day that we had the solar eclipse? It was really neat to watch. I can't remember when they said the next one was going to be, but it was going to be a long time from now. So I'm glad I got to experience some of that. So I got a little bit of paint outside of the line, so I'm just going to wipe that up. And here's where I'm going back and I'm like, oh, I want to add a little bit more water because I really like how this fourth one turned out. And so I'll go back and blend those a little better. So I don't know if the camera really isn't picking up the shimmer and shine in each of these circles. But both of these paints with them having the shimmer in it, it's like glitter without the mess. And so I love it. And especially that the Shimmers Coal color, it really has a lot of shimmer to it. And I did most of that painting off camera, so you'll see now I got all of those completed. And now I want to go back in and add a few splatters to my layout. I love making splatters, so I'm going to go in and just use my glue here to just tap the end of my paintbrush, and I'm adding some of the mustard seed, and then I'll go in and add some of the coal as well. So I'm putting a lot of splatters on here, and I think that looks really nice. It gives it some more interest. So that looks good. And now I'm going to switch over and I'm going to switch back to the coal. And again, I'll get my paintbrush, dip it in some water. And I'm going to switch to a smaller paintbrush, I think here. Yeah, I did. I got a smaller paintbrush and I'm just adding some splatters in the black. And see how that's looking? Doesn't it look cool? I love it. Okay, so now that I have that completed, I'm going to move on to the next step and I'm going to bring in my photos. So I'll set this aside to dry for a moment. And I found this paper in my stash. These are the photos I want to use. So that's me on the left and my boyfriend Dale. Dale was at work. I work from home, and so I just went outside and looked up and took a photo. Dale was at work, so he had one of his coworkers take a photo of him. And then my daughter Tatum, when she got home from school, she also had taken a photo with her glasses on. So it was really neat to experience that. So the paper that I'm matting these on was just from my stash, and it kind of is just like it's a black with white. It kind of reminded me of like a space type paper, and I believe this is a Close to My Heart mix-in paper. So an older Close to My Heart paper. Close to My Heart's no longer in business, but I still have tons of their paper. And so I try to use them up. And so that's what this is. So I have each of our photos matted here, and I'm going to put this strip across the layout. Now I will distress all of the edges, so I'm going to bring in my distressing tool here, and I'll leave this link down below as well as any other products that I used today. But I picked this up on Amazon, and I think that this is a really neat tool for distressing your edges. Doesn't look so right now, but it's really easy. I think it's the angle that I'm holding them at. Usually I hold it right in my lap, to distress the edges. Okay, so I'll finish that off camera. And now I'm thinking, since there's so much brick in the photo with me and my daughter, that I really wanted to add some brick. So this is also a sheet of paper that I had from Close to My Heart. And so I know I want to put that in the background. And then I have my Capture the Moment cut file that I want to use. And so I'm just going to set that on here and see how I like that. Now I did add an offset. Since I got the digital prescription, I just went ahead and added a slight offset. So now I'm trying to decide which color that I want to use. And so I have all of my Distress Oxide inks on little 2x2 squares, like little samples, so that I can easily match them up. And so what I've done here is I have matched up the color to Salty Ocean. So I think Salty Ocean is going to be the closest color match to the glasses that we were wearing. So I'm going to use this offset piece, and I'm going, instead of backing my cut file today, I'm going to use this Distress Oxide ink and only put ink on the offset piece. And then I can go in and add the Capture the Moment over top of that. So the cut file over top of that. Now, I guess I don't have the footage for where I colored the cut file, but I did use a luster brush. And so that's one thing you can do. And a luster brush is basically like a paint pen, but it does not have the sparkle in it. So it's like a flat black. And so I went ahead and colored I cut it out in white cardstock, the Capture the Moment. And here's the brush. Again, I'm bringing it in. And now I am just going in and all the little insert pieces from when you cut the cut file, I'm going to add those back in, but I accidentally colored them blue, not thinking, but they all need to be in black. So I'm bringing back in that luster brush, and I'm painting each of the insert pieces black, and then I'll use my tweezers and just go ahead and add those in where they go. So I've got one for the A and the R and then the O. So I'll add those back in. I like adding in those little pieces so that it's a full letter. So now I have those colored in with my brush. So I'm going to use my fine liner glue here, and I'm using tacky glue. And I'm just going to add glue to the back of this cut file, and then I'll add it down to that offset piece. So I'll do most of that off camera, and then we'll go ahead and get that stuck down so we can start putting this layout together. Okay, so my layout is still kind of wet, but I want to go ahead and finish this. I cut my white cardstock down to 11 by 11 where I did my painting, and I'm going to use a 12 by 12 sheet of black cardstock to mat it on. And then I think that I have too much of the brick. I don't want to cover up my entire background. I only want to cover up a portion of it. And so I will, I'm just tearing the edges for my distressed look here. And I'm going to bring back in my photos and just see how that looks. And I need to take a little bit more off of this brick paper. And so there we go. I like that. And I think that brick's going to look really nice behind my photos. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tear a little bit more off. I tear this off here, but later on in the video, you'll see where I add it back in. So I thought I just wanted to add that little pop from behind, but I do end up adding it back in. Okay, so I'm going to put some adhesive on here, and since my layout is still wet, I'm just going to adhere it to the brick piece for now, so that I can move it as one unit when I put it back on the layout. So we'll get that pressed down, and I like the way that looks. Okay, so let me bring back in my layout, and I'm going to carefully set this on here, and then we can start placing the cut file on the layout. So I'm going to move it pretty far up on the page, because I have cut my cut file pretty large here. I love that it comes large, and I'm gonna overlap it onto my photos a bit. So here's where I tear more of the brick, thinking that I don't want the cut file, I don't think you're gonna see that brick, so I tore it and I stick it on the layout. And I'm trying to decide exactly where I want to put it. And now that I'm looking back at it, I think that looks pretty good like that. But I do bring back in that brick. I want to extend the brick further because I didn't think you could see enough of it once I put the cut file down. So I just, off camera, I went ahead and glued the brick to the other piece there. And so now you can see more of that brick popping out, and I like the way that looks. Okay. So I have this piece from this is an acrylic piece from my stash, and it says Solar Eclipse 2024, and I bought this, I think the day of the eclipse, maybe. I can't remember exactly where I got it now. But if you don't have an acrylic piece like this, you could always just stamp or use some die cut letters, or even cut out some on your Cricut with the title of Solar Eclipse. But off camera, I brought in this die. Now this is from the Stamps of Life, and it is their Mini Sun Fold It. And I painted a piece of cardstock in the same yellow, in that mustard seed vibes, and then cut it out with my die cut. And then over on the right hand side, I added another little acrylic sun. I added a few gems, and that's going to finish up today's layout. So if you've enjoyed this, I hope you'll hit that thumbs up button. If you're new, I hope you'll subscribe and come back. I will have still shots at the end of the video over on Facebook and on Instagram. Thanks so much, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye!